Because if you go into one of these gyms, there may be a decent amount of people in there working out, but that's not going to carry that gym. It's those members that never show up and they just never check their credit cards. Then you've got those other gyms that are like a UFC gym or an LA Fitness type of gym that have classes. They have equipment, but they offer classes to their members. What's the gym in Syosset? It's a crazy gym.
Lifetime.
This gym, they charge people like, I think Pina just looked at it. I think it's like $275 a month.
Hey, I'm gonna call my brother out. Steve, stop going to Lifetime Fitness. Change up your spending habits and maybe get something else going on. I don't know, just like.
She just looked at it because they picked up this yoga studio. Long story short, we were gonna purchase a yoga studio and then we decided not to. The financials just weren't there for it. But Lifetime ended up like getting all of their stuff and bringing their members over. So she was going to go over there and she looked at the membership and it's like $275 a month. Now this place, Lifetime, again, there's levels to what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Link, Planet Fitness, those $10, $15 a month kind of gyms. Then you've got your next levels, your UFCs, your LA Fitnesses where they do have classes. You know, and then you've got your Lifetimes where it's a club. I mean, it's a,
you get like a shaving kit when you go. You get, and there's also like I'll be transparent. Like there also are packages, right? Like so, like I kind of threw my brother under the bus there a little bit. And there's packages. Like Steve's not balling out and getting like crazy like massages every day and stuff. But I think it's funny. And yeah, like that's a component, I think, to it. And then the reason I wanted to highlight these two, and I thought it would be fun to bring them up, is looking at each one. Not that one's good or one's bad in the sense of like, hey, if it works for you and you actually show up, that's the most important thing. If you show up and you get results, cool. But I wanted to highlight each of these, just to have one as a representation for each kind of segment, saying where's like your highest percentage chance of success? That's like one of the things I wanted to pull out. And I'll be like honest, even I think in my opinion, Chuck, it falls under these two categories. Either like the UFC gym kind of model, you can get really good success there. And I think the difference is, this may be weird, but like and obviously I'm biased because we had a franchise location versus a corporate location, and even the dynamics of the size, big box, small box, and how big they can get. I think the smaller ones are going to be best, but the community building is a component of it. And that's where I also kind of segue that to the accelerations of the world, the DeFranco gyms of the world, even road combat clubs of the world, sucker frees of the world, that you build a community. It's not about the equipment. It's about the people, the coaching, and the community that it builds.
Yeah, and that's like the one level that we didn't get into, is that specialized type of training, the accelerations, the DeFrancos, the road combat clubs. You're looking at your studios, like my studio, Sucker Free, my guys over at Sucker Free, that's a jiu-jitsu studio, but you've got various like specialized type of gyms, which I agree with Mike 100%. You look at your LA Fitnesses or your UFC gyms that offer classes, but they also offer weights. You can go in there and it's like a one-stop shop. You can take a class or you can do your own thing on your own. You'll get great results from that. But like these bigger box chains, you may not get the community. My best type of experience with gyms across the board have been those smaller type of gyms, those specialized type of gyms where you'll find like the most ridiculous level of coaches in these gyms. You're not going to get, and you may find the diamond in the rough in one of these big box chains that's just like this ultimate trainer working at one of these gyms. It's very hard to find though. You'll get like your typical, I took an online course and now I'm a personal trainer, and those are the type of trainers that you're going to find at those gyms. But in these specialized type of studios or smaller gyms, again, Acceleration or Rogue, you'll get the best training that you can possibly get because there's an investment there. All those trainers that are at that gym are building that community, and the community of just the members there are phenomenal. And I remember walking into that franchise UFC gym that ultimately we ended up kind of taking over and building it up on our own.
Do what we want.
Credit to Mike, he knew every single member's name and he remembered it, and every time somebody walked in the door, you would say hi to him and you would get that person pumped no matter what that person's day looked like. They could have had the worst day in the world, and as soon as they walked in the door, the first person to call them out would be you. And that's what made that gym special. And that's what made Mike memorable. Every time I walked in the gym, yeah, Chuck, and I could have had the worst day. And it's not paying attention. I just, my eyes are in my phone walking through the gym, and I would never know where it was coming from. Like a sniper just chucking me from somewhere.
Somewhere in the back, maybe I'm training somebody, but I got my eye on the front. I see you.
He's got his eye. He always had his eye on the front, and the community in those gyms are phenomenal. Now, those gyms may be a little bit more pricey compared to your Blanks or your Planet Fitnesses or your UFC gyms, but the value you're going to pull out of those gyms will be unsurpassed from any of your other options. My rant is over.
And I think to your point, man, I appreciate that shout out. Like sometimes I forget, like just because there's so many layers and components to a journey, you kind of forget little nuggets from each layer and piece. And the one thing I will not forget though is I still actually talk to a lot of the members from UFC Huntington. And even before that, when I started at the corporate office, I actually started at UFC Long Island when they were first opening it up. It was the first corporate office here, our first layer they were exploring out to New York. I remember we set records and stuff. And this is one of the other topics I wanted to bring up to peel back the kind of curtain a little bit is we set basically every record when it came to sales, PT sessions, numbers, opening, whatever you could think of. There was all these metrics we set. And that's the other side to it that I think is kind of a component I'd like to share with everyone and why I think, in my opinion, the small box or those specialized facilities end up doing the most, where it attracts the right people. There's a sociological component to it, but I think the business side can sometimes be toxic. And I'll say toxic in the sense of it can influence how we operate as a coach and as a trainer. To be transparent behind the scenes, I knew every week and every month and every quarter I had numbers I had to hit. So I'm going to go through clients, and I personally actually wouldn't do some of the strategies just because I didn't agree with all of them. And that's okay if you don't agree with everything that even we say here. That's totally fine. But I thought, you know what? I'm not going to do X, Y, or Z, but there's a lot of actual benefit to it. One of the best tips I ever got was that led me to saying, yeah, when people come in the door, is make them remember you. So it was this idea of farming versus hunting. And this is the analogy. And Chuck, tell me what you think about this. So the idea of farming is I would buy, and I learned this working for 24 Hour Fitness back in Las Vegas when I was about 21. And I just was exploring my fight career. And the manager I had, high-level manager at 24 Hour Fitness, he was like, hey man, buy a bottle of water. It's I don't know, $5-10, something like that. 24 waters in it. Every time you see someone on a cardio machine that doesn't have water, don't try and sell them nothing. Just walk up, give them a water, and that's it. Especially if they have headphones on, don't even try and talk to them. Just give them a water, walk away. Guess what? They'll remember you. And over time, they'll build that trust. And then when they have a question, who are they going to talk to? The guy that gave them a water and they kind of have a trusting relationship with, or some stranger and some schmuck that's on the floor? Because the other thing is, everybody knows that has ever been in a gym for a decent amount of time. They're going to try and sell you. If you ask for if you open the door to a conversation, they're going to try and sell you. So it's they're very resistant to that. So that was the idea of farming that has always stuck with me. Just to build relationships with people, but also the positive impact it can have in a business sense of offer up value ahead of time, build a relationship, build trust. And when people want something, they'll come to you first versus going elsewhere. But this idea on the other side was hunting. And this is where I guess I can hunt from time to time, but I just don't believe in it as much. And I learned this actually from UFC gym. The farming was from 24 Hour Fitness. The hunting I started to get from a UFC gym was hey, literally you're going to hit every person on the floor that doesn't have good technique or is doing something wrong or doing whatever, that you could find a piece of advice. Even if it's not what they're focusing on. Let's say they're working on speed training, you could walk up and say, hey, if you do a 3-2-1 tempo on the eccentric and this lift, it's I'm not even training that, but just getting your foot in the door there. That's the hunting mentality, which I think is more narrow-sided personally, but that's my rant.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not going to be liked for doing this, but I've been, again, in the history of gyms pretty much my entire life. I've pulled back and dissected numbers, and I know, listen, I'm going to share everything with you guys right now. Gyms don't make money. They don't. They're there to service people, okay? The gym owners that are out there that have this facade in their mind that they're going to become millionaires because of a gym, sometimes it works. Sometimes you'll find that one time that it actually works. but gyms essentially are a break-even type of business. Okay. Now, the trainers that are there, the staff that are there, the owners that are there, they'll make a decent living working at the gym, working at a gym. My family, I grew up and been raised, and I'm here because of the fact that my parents owned a gym, but we weren't millionaires because of it. The difference between the two narratives there that we're talking about, that specialized training versus that big box gym, you're 100% right, Mike. That big box gym that's there, they're there for their profitability. They're going to try to hunt and sell you on everything because their bottom line matters the most, and they're there to make a profit. Where that specialized gym is there, and again, this is just from my history and my knowledge base and everything that I've learned over time, that specialized gym that's there, they're still going to make money because they have memberships and they're doing what they can to sell training sessions and everything, but they're not there for profitability. They're not there to just make a profit. They're there because there's a passion involved in what they do. And the majority of those specialized gyms, they started that gym because they're passionate about what they do. And that's ultimately, like you said, the big box gyms will go over and A, B, and C, fix these. I was taught the same thing, but I was taught the same thing by my parents, by my mom, who would say, don't go try to sell them anything. Just go fix their form, because I don't want to see that person get hurt in our gym, and I want to see them have better results. So that's ultimately, and that mindset was ingrained in me till even this day.
Still happens. I've seen it.
I will go up to somebody in the middle of their workout that's potentially going to hurt themselves and just offer a correction and help them fix their form. That's why they call me the form police. And I won't take a dime from them. And ultimately, that's ended up why I built this, because I built this kind of persona around me that it would be just okay for people to come up and ask me, hey, can you help? And I get text messages every day. People sending me videos of them doing deadlifts or bench press and this and that and the other thing. Chuck, can you help me fix my form? I got one last night. Somebody showing me their deadlift and asking me if they can come over and to my personal gym and help me fix their deadlift. And I'll do it because, again, I'm testadudo. I'm very stubborn headed, and I'll try to help somebody get a better goal. Help them fix their goal. Should I take money from them? Probably, but Mike, you've been telling me to do it all the time, but I never do. My wife also tells me to do it too. But again, those specialized gyms, they're there because there was a passion involved. Weiss at Sucker Free, Tyrone and Weiss, they started Sucker Free because they had a passion for instruction. And honestly, in my opinion, it's the best jiu-jitsu gym I've ever been to. My training and my elevation of where I've been, my progress has gone from stagnant to, I almost pulled off an omoplata the other day. And me being a refrigerator box, who is 222 pounds pulling off omoplatas at 45 years old?
That's it.
But again, it's that level of instruction, that passion that goes into it, which really makes those specialized gyms rare and special.
And I think to that point, Chuck, that's to me the bigger kind of highlight that I wanted to pull out of this for everybody is be able to start to recognize that, even though right now in the fitness community, the trend is everything's virtual, everything's online, eventually, at least this is my hopes and thoughts on this, eventually things will open back up, right? Things, will hopefully be in a better position. Things will be figured out between vaccine or whatever the approach is. That's a different topic for a different day. But however it gets fixed or however it gets addressed, then being able to get back in the fitness, be able to recognize that quality versus quantity kind of approach of the big boxes are going to be quantity. And you may see that in the price point. You may see it in the marketing. However, you got to ask yourself, what are you going to get from that? So if you look at it, like, let's say the average gym length is 10 months, just on average. And this is like the last data I pulled from like 8 years ago, from a big box number. So let's say 10 months is the average. So let's say it's $10 a month, $100. You can take $100. What are you going to really get from that? Probably nothing. Maybe you'll get a couple like workouts in that aren't really going to positively impact you. Or you take that same $100, you might spend it for a month with a specialty box, or like 2 months for a specialty or something like that. But the impact you'll get, the results that you'll get will be way more. And again, we've talked about this, the positive impact making this change in your life will have guarantee you're going to either A, start to rearrange how you may want to spend your finances or figure out your situation or make more to be able to sustain that. But the impact is ultimately what we wanted to pull out and highlight for you guys. And that's why to be there. Because again, that community component is what's going to get you the results too. It's not just like, yes, quality of coaches, 100%, you have to have the quality. But if you can have the best coaches, and if you never go to the gym, who cares? So if you actually show up, that's where I think the positive is.
Yeah, and that community is the community that you build around that gym, you'll find people that'll motivate you. I mean, I do it every single day. I get a group of guys that we go to Sucker Free every single day, and I'm sending text messages, or they're sending text messages, who's training today? And then we'll call each other out if we're not training. If we don't see them at the gym, we're calling them out. Now, we may not do it as nicely as possible, but we bust each other's chops, and we hold each other accountable. If they don't show up at the gym, or they do show up at the gym, we're giving them positive reinforcement behind how the training went that day. And if we don't see them at the gym, the group of guys, we're calling them out, man. Why don't you show up, you bunch of pussies? What's going on? And that's it. That's that community of my wife does it all the time. She'll find like a group of girls, and she goes to Ash Hot Yoga now. And this community that they've built around themselves, and the crew that they've built around themselves, they hold each other accountable. And they've just made this little girl squad, and that's what we're talking about with that community. You'll get the accountability from your colleagues around you, the quality from that coaching that you'll get at these specialized places. It's unsurpassed. You won't get that at a big box chain. Again, it depends on what you want too. Again, like what Mike was saying, look at your finances, and you'll see over time that the investment in these smaller specialty places is going to pay off so much more than your investment into, I pay $10, $15 a month and I never go to Blink Fitness,
Exactly. And then ultimately, what do you want? Like you said, Chuck. And then, so this is like, I was going to do an entire podcast episode just on this topic, but I want to sneak it in here in the last couple bits, even though we're probably going to chop this up into 2 parts. Who knows? We'll see. You guys know.
Mike, just make it one big podcast. Come on, man. Just put the one big podcast.
All right. Well, we'll keep it all together for you guys. So this is the one thing I wanted to sneak in here in the last couple minutes is this idea. I've talked about it before, and a lot of you that have heard me talk, on client calls and stuff, you'll know, is a trainer versus a coach. And to me, there's a very big difference. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being a trainer in a niche that's what's necessary. But to me, the coach is where it's at. And I'll tell you guys what I mean by that. Because I've been a trainer in a commercial fitness space, in the LA Fitnesses, 24-hour Fitnesses, even in like a UFC gym corporate office, like in the big box, that huge space versus the smaller ones, and how it kind of becomes a difference. And to me, the trainer is someone you're paying for that hour or for that session, whatever the timeline is, and they could be great in that session and you could be crushing it. But what happens from that session to the next session? There's really not a lot of either support, communication, even if there is a plan. Like, let's say you have a good trainer that's even going to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to level it up. I don't even have to do this, but I'm going to write you up a plan for what you should do on your own in between. But usually you don't hear from them, right? It's like, next session. All right, how did it go on the last week, 2 weeks, whatever. And that can only get us so far. To me, a coach on the other side, and Chuck, obviously you could speak to this too, is they're checking with you on, again, daily, like that daily accountability. Where were you? What's going on? How can we get better? Asking questions that you may not want to have asked, but ultimately are there to benefit you.
That one thing right there that you just said, asking questions. Now, in my opinion, the trainer versus coach mentality is a trainer is going to just give you things to do. A coach is going to ask you what your goals are and then listen and then give you feedback. A trainer is, in my opinion, and listen, I may not make friends because of this. A trainer is, somebody you go into and they sit down with you and they say, and they give you a plan. And they let you do your thing. And they may be there for that hour to go, yeah, great form. It looks good. Or you need to correct this. Or yeah, okay, bye. Coach is going to spend the time to ask you ultimately where you want to see your fitness levels, where are your goals, and they're going to listen and pay attention to that one part. If you're integrating with somebody who's either a trainer or a coach, or you're trying to figure out if they're a trainer or a coach, when you're talking, look in their eyes and see if they're listening to you, and see if they're taking notes, and see if they're paying attention to what your goals are. Because I know a lot of trainers that are out there that give the same type of program to every single person. And every single person is different. And you got to be mindful of that. Everybody's goals are different. Everybody's hormone levels are different. Diets are different. Everybody is different. And as a coach, you should be able to recognize that and be able to write a program based upon injuries, mobility, nutrition, goals, everything, and follow up. The coach is going to be the one, exactly what Mike says, to follow up every single day, check in, see how you're doing. I do it with a lot of my clients. At the end of every week, I'll ask them, how'd the week go? Is there anything that we need to change up for next week? How are we feeling? Is our body feeling better? You know, are we on the right path? Give me some feedback so I can address. And I spend the weekends writing up their plan for the entire week. And then I do the same thing every week. And I follow up with them every single day. Say, how are we feeling? If I see somebody fall off, I'm following up to them and say, you just talk to me. Let me know what's going on. And a lot of people, oh, it's been a terrible week. And, you know, talk to me about your week. What's going on? Is work or school, anything stressful? You know, and if they say, yeah, I got a terrible week, you know, again, I'll just give them little bits. Don't forget, if we get a workout in, it's going to release our stress levels. But ultimately, if we don't get our workout in, great. Let's make sure, because of our stress levels, we're getting proper rest. You know, there's a lot of things that a coach is going to tell you versus a trainer. And I agree with you 100% on that.
Chuck just rounded it out. That was smooth, man. We're gonna have to save that little snippet right there and use it for a sizzle reel at some point. That's all I'm gonna say. That's what I'm just gonna let you guys know. So when you see Chuck dropping knowledge on a new sizzle reel, we'll have somewhere up in the marketing world. Saw it first here.
I know I go on rants every now and then. I think I'm going on more rants than you lately, Mike.
Yeah, but that's because you have that great, and I think this is, again, like as we continuously start to open that door and start to peel that curtain back or peel those layers back, you start to want to share more, because I find that if everybody understood some of the basics of, and this is not that it's not the fault of that, it's just kind of built into the industry. And why I wanted to talk about this too is like, with the virtual side of things, with the Instagram side of things, with like, even on our back end, right? Like you guys might even see, we're going to start getting more involved from like social media and like affiliate marketing, getting people that we trust and that we know have the same mission as us to back what we're doing, so that we can start to shift that. But there's a lot of people like social media influencers or people online that don't know what the hell they're talking about, right? They may look good even, and they may have a great physique, but they don't know how to take, it doesn't matter what works for you. It matters what works across the board and how to change, and to your point, Chuck, tailor it and match it. And that's what we do so well, in my opinion, being able to make those adjustments. And we want to, again, progressively shift that. So to your point, Chuck, with the rants, like we need those rants. We need to be able to pull that out and to share it with everybody so they can see like, hey, even if it's not us, that's cool. Like, even if it's like the Phil DeRues of the world, or it's the other quality coaches that may have a specialty that we're not doing, right? The Dr. Tony Ricci's of the world, anything like that. Like, even because I think of it this way, like, we may not be able to help every single person, every single situation, right? But if we can at least point you in that direction, we're making a positive impact. And that's, again, building that trust factor of like, hey, I'm going to give you this water because I want you to be hydrated. I want you to be okay. I'm going to correct your form because I don't want you to get hurt. We're going to share something with you that, hopefully it helps with us, but ultimately if it helps you, that's the bigger piece. So that's, I guess, the key.
I've totally recommended like Phil DeRue. You mentioned Phil, or like Mike Dolce, or Tony Ricci. I've totally recommended people to go on their social media and look at what those type of trainers are doing, because it may not be, my expertise. Like Phil DeRue's a mad scientist. That guy's a genius. Tony Ricci, mad scientist. These guys are
Dr. Amato, right?
Dr. Amato, the guy who just fixed my neck. These guys are next level type of guy, in my opinion. These guys are like the guys that I look to. I may not have as much knowledge base, in my opinion, as these guys do, but these are guys that I look to. I know you're gonna yell at me, Mike.
Chuck.
But these are
different conversation for a different day.
Let's talk about it later, Mike. But these are the guys that I look to, and if I have to recommend them to somebody, I totally will. You touched on a point that I want to touch on real quick. Again, like those social media people that have hundreds of thousands of followers, or they, again, like what Mike just said, they may not be the best coach or trainer in the world, it's easy for me to do a little pose and get a bunch of followers, or flash a little skin and get a bunch of followers. You got to put in the back of your mind, look at what that person is doing, and look at what that person is putting, the type of content that they're putting online. Is it theirs? Do you see them lifting properly? Do you see them working out properly? Because ultimately, that person's probably got a coach that's coaching them. And then they've built this ridiculous platform of social media based upon a couple pictures or showing a little bit of skin or goofing around or doing something, and people will follow them. But is it them that wrote that program? We don't know. Every coach has a coach. If they're a good coach, every coach has a coach. I know Mike and I have built a ridiculous network of coaches and doctors and people around us because we want to make ourselves better. So keep that in the back of your mind when you're going to click that follow button on that person who's just doing like this. Mm-hmm. Okay, I did it. I showed you.
That was a good pose. I'm not gonna lie.
That was a good pose.
Again, another one added to the sizzle reel, Chuck. It's gonna be added to it.
You're adding a bunch of ones to the sizzle reel.
So yeah, and I think that's a great way, honestly, just to wrap it up there, guys, just to emphasize that point. And again, we can even look to create, we might even have a behind the scenes little conversation to create a checkpoint below that could be a resource of like, is this account legit or is this coach legit? And it'll be like maybe a couple questions you can ask. If you check them off, yeah, that's how I know they're legit. Do they have other people that can attribute to the results that they've, I don't know, we'll come up with something. We'll talk about it behind the scenes and we'll kind of be
what I'm gonna suggest we do, Mike? I want your top 3 social media trainers. Ooh. I want to see them. I'm going to give you my top 3 right now.
Yeah, hit me.
Tony Ricci, Phil DeRue, John Wolf from On It. Those are my top 3.
You know what? So those are good. Those are all right. Damn it, Chuck, taking some good ones.
I took some good ones.
I'm gonna literally pull up my account right now, and I'm gonna see what comes up onto me. Already, with jumping off is. Even though they don't put out as much as I would like, Acceleration Sports Training, because John Furious, Stephen Wilk, the team over there, I attribute pretty much everything of myself to them in a lot of different ways. I'm going to say DeFranco, Joe DeFranco and his gym. Just
Joe DeFranco, one of my top guys.
And then, I kind of want to say Compound Performance, because I like recently Compound Performance have been putting out some more topical conversations that I just enjoy, of them calling people out of like, oh, well, because one of the big things is like, oh, you're not deadlifting a certain way, right? Or anything like that. And what they've been starting to put out is like, hey, guess what? You can lift slightly different for your body type. You need to know the why behind your what in your lifts. Like, why are you training fast or slow? So I'm going to give them a plug, even though like I might not have normally said that, but those would be my 3, and I think they're all still legit too. So those are
good 3 ones.
Good call.
Those are good ones.
And we'll put those below for you guys to check out. And cheers everybody. I appreciate you chugging the knowledge and the rants we've dropped them lately, man. It's making my life easy. I can't lie.
My coffee is empty right now, but cheers everybody. Listen, it's going to be cold out upstate New York. Everybody stay safe. We're supposed to get a blizzard up here in the next couple of days. Be mindful. If you're stuck at home, it doesn't mean you have to be stagnant. And I'm just going to leave you with that little snippet. Don't be stagnant sitting at home. Get up and do something.